Please check out our sponsors NordVPN for the best in online security. It's the best VPN on the market, and you can try it risk-free now with a 30-day money-back guarantee by visiting nordvpn.com/heartandhand. That's nordvpn.com/heartandhand, and it's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Hello everyone and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar and as always I am your host. But this week, for a change, you might find it's quite an upbeat and happy pod. It has not been the case, and while none of us are suggesting that Rangers are round this enormous corner we're trying to turn, I think we can be entitled to enjoy what was a very pleasant weekend for Rangers supporters. And joining me today to discuss it is a man who very rarely gets to do so. It's Andy McGowan. Hello Andy.
Hello David, upbeat and happy. That's where I come in, isn't it? Thanks.
You were gallivanting this weekend. You didn't go to the game for, I think, the first time since I've ever known you.
I went to see Spurs. in this mega stadium. It was quite an eye-opener.
Was it good?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Aye.
What a place.
I mean, I've heard, I've not been.
It's, you think about it and you think, well, Ibrox is getting a wee bit long in the tooth. Ibrox has its charms, and I still think atmosphere-wise, we piss all over it. But if you'd said to me, design a stadium for Rangers, money's no object, it would be that, because the atmosphere wasn't like mega, but we would make that place unbelievable. You've got the big wall, the big Dortmund style wall and stuff like that. But what a place! I
did have slight regrets last year with the Euro draw that it wasn't the other way about with English teams.
I did as well.
I would have loved a trip there and Man U at home. I think we'd have beat Man U at home. But anyway, this season beating teams has not come as easily as we'd like it to. Losing hasn't actually been such a big issue, believe it or not. I was reminded of this on Saturday night. The commentator said Rangers have lost only one match in the league this season. I thought, Jesus, that's right, actually. Which seems bizarre, but we've drawn far, far, far too many matches this season. Rugby Park, Andy, tough place to go, Claxon. But it's true. You just need to look at results over the last 15 years. Various managers and better Rangers teams than this. So first things first, while we will pick apart the game, I am not ever going to be angry or upset after a 3-0 win at Rugby Park, because for us and for that lot, it has proven to be a ground that can be very tricky.
It's been a house of pain for us, that's for sure. You think of the moments we've had, really bad goals, defeats, out-muscled, outplayed at times, and the atmosphere has been quite ferocious when they've been, when our attendances have been up. So it's, and in that pitch, and I know we shouldn't, professional footballers, and you can argue that pitch is better than the old style, rock hard or rock soft, really soft, muddy pitches. But there's something about it. It kind of tricks the eyes, and you're aware of it all the time. I hate it. And by the way, but I was going to say, Falkirk's and Livingston's are actually a step in the right direction. I think they're much, much better, although they're not perfect.
I still think
Killy's is still...
If you're a serious league,
I agree.
To be, you should have grass pitches. It's not that difficult.
I agree.
The argument about finances, it's like, well, it's the same reason we can't sign players for 20 million quid. We can't afford it. But there are certain things that you need to have as a football club, and one of them for me is a grass pitch. But clearly that hasn't been the prevailing wisdom in Scottish football. But Rangers pitched up there Saturday night. Danny Rule made a couple of changes, interesting ones. James Tavernier dropped out. I wasn't massively surprised about that, because form-wise he's not been great, but I think more pertinently he's played a lot and he is getting older, and he looked very tired on Wednesday night. Manager said he was ill as well, which may explain that sort of lack of energy on Wednesday night. But he put him into the starting lineup, and probably the key was a selection that wasn't actually changed, Andy, and that was up front, where he kept Bojan Miovski. And now this has been something that I've been wanging on about a little bit, which is, of the three strikers, none of whom have done well. and we know that. But pick one and give him a run, because I felt changing every game, and it was every game, was not helping them to build up any rhythm or any confidence. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes you need to take a player and say, look, you're in the next 5 games, right? So relax. You do badly on Saturday, you're still playing the next match. So, right, you're going to get a run in the team and see if that settles him down. And it does seem to have helped Bojan Miovski, because that was the Bojan Miovski that I thought we were getting.
He's been signed as a senior striker, right? This is the thing about him and Chermiti. You can talk about Danilo later, but he's been signed as the number 1 striker, there's no question about it. And he's been really, really poor, Dave. I don't think there's any other way to put it. He's been really poor all round. Football game has been poor, and then there's been no many goals, because the goals, if they were coming in the rest of his game, was kind of sloppy or whatever, then you can live with it. Yeah. The only thing I would say in his defence is he's been up at Tannadice as well. He is a focal point in the box, so you feel that if there's crosses going in, he's the one that's most likely to be in a position or have that, that striker's instinct to be in the right place. But their goals on Saturday night were, I call them Negri goals. Remember Negri used to be, he wasn't a particularly great all-round football player, but if he was phoning his arse with his back to goal, or he always tried to get a shot away, and he always tried to, just wriggle his way into a shooting position. And I thought the 2 goals were kind of classic goals for a goal scorer, and he badly needed them. Because I think he's a confidence player as much as anything. It's in amongst the maelstrom of the new signings this summer and the Martin debacle and everything that's happened since that, there is something being lost in that. It is hard to become a Rangers player, even for the best of them, and it's even harder when you're in a struggling team and a struggling squad. So we need to change the narrative a wee bit, or the players need to change the narrative, and I think we're seeing a couple of them do that slowly but surely. Miovski is definitely one of them that's done that on Saturday night. He needs to kick on for you here, right? He needs to go into next week against Hibs, even Thursday night, or against Ferencváros. He's got to get into these games and just be positive and get shots away, because I think that's the key for the whole team, actually. Get shots away, get in the box, and things will happen. And I've been asking for match winners or difference makers, because a lot of what we went through, you talk about the fact we've only lost once in those 8 draws we've had. A difference maker, one player that can just
turn 2 of them into draws.
Exactly.
2 of the draws into wins, sorry.
The wee moment, the wee whatever, that's the difference between pandemonium in our club and just a wee moment of calm that allows people and players and management to breathe. And the breathing space is really important for Rangers this now, because we've went through a traumatic period. I mean, you're talking about this season. It feels as if we should be automatically relegated, but it's been fucking exhausting, man.
I know, and it feels like it's lasted about 3 years.
It's been going on forever, it feels like. And so that's why moments like Saturday night, when you actually get a bit of daylight during the game and you can relax, even for the last 5 minutes, is sorely welcome. We've not had enough of those moments, not just this season, but last season as well.
I want to I'll just continue. I was going to talk about something else, but I'll just continue on Miovski seeing he's come up. And I think you're so right about these are strikers' goals. These 2. The first one, there's no room, right? And what he does is he just manufactures a strike. There's no backlift, and it's a toe poke. People say that as if it's a negative. It's not. It's the only way he can get a shot away there. He doesn't have the space to swing his leg back and smash it, right? He can't see much of the goal to place it. So what he's done is that's what a natural goal scorer does. Is instinctively, this is the only thing I can do to get a goal. And yeah, the keeper should probably do better. Although it is hard to see, because he ain't seeing that till it's on him, the keeper, in all fairness, who I don't think was particularly impressive, and I know Kelly fans don't rate him particularly highly, but even so, it's a tough one. The second one, he doesn't score that if the first one hasn't gone in. That is confidence. Ball comes to him in the box, 2-touch finish. It's like and knowing straight away what he was going to do. And the reason I bring that up is, if you go back and watch the first goal, Rangers actually break, Kelly give the ball away in a bad position. It comes to Miovski, and he's got 3 options, and he takes none of them because he's got, what do I do? And he doesn't know whether to pass left, pass right, or take it on himself. And in the end, he sort of does neither. or none of them. The Killie players get back and it looks as though the attack is over and Rangers eventually work it round and it ends in a goal. The second one, though, there's none of that. When the ball is coming to him, he knows exactly what he wants to do. He wants to take a touch and then he wants to whip it back across the goalkeeper. And that is confidence. And it is true, it's a cliche, but for a striker, it is amazing what a goal does.
He probably visualised the second one. He probably knew as soon as it's coming, this is what I'm going to do. He can see the movement.
He did, and you can see it. You can see the difference. Honestly, folks, go back and watch that first goal. When the Killie player passes it to him, he stops, and you can see him weighing it up, and then it's too late. Second one, no, boom, touch, shot, goal.
See, even the first one, right? What I loved about the first one is it's a Diamandi that's kind of struggling to keep the ball, and he does really well actually to keep it in a tight position in the box. And Miovski's within a couple of yards of him, and instead of, I think most strikers would have backed off and tried to create space for the person there, and have their back to go. What he actually does is steps out and gets behind the ball so that when it comes to him, he's got to go in front of him. So he did really well that first goal, instinctive, but the second one I think is more Miovski all over. It's what we've come to know from him, where he tries to get onto his left foot and either whips it into the top corner, that wee bit bend, or else he cuts it back across. The goalie had no chance because he's taken the balance. He's done it for the defender and he's done it for the goalie. It's not as if he...
And use the defender as a guard. Almost.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not as if he was absolutely blasted into the top corner. It was a kind of, for lack of a better word, it was a kind of feeble kick, but it was so well placed, and the goalie's no diving for it.
No, you're right when you say that. He knew exactly before the ball came to him what he was going to do, and I think that the contrast in the two is enormous in the two goals, and it was absolutely huge and great to see, because there was a, I think, growing myth, and it was kind of exploded last week on social media. I noticed that Miovski, he won't work for us because all his goals are just balls over the top into space and he scores. And it was pointed out, I think it was John Walker on Twitter pointed out that actually no, the reason that Rangers, and to be fair Celtic fans, think that that's the case is he scored goals like that against the Old Firm. Mm-hmm. And that's generally when we saw him, because I don't know about you, but I don't watch much Aberdeen, in all honesty. But if you look at the majority of his goals at Aberdeen, they are one or two touch finishes in a packed box, and those were Bojan Miovski goals. So absolutely brilliant to see, and now he's got the shirt. He's got to run with it.
I was worried about him. I was worried about him. I was really worried. You're looking at it, you're like, and it was putting pressure on Chimay. I mean, he's obviously no firing, and I think he's got his own job, right? But I think if Miovski was scoring goals and doing what we signed him for, it takes a wee bit of the expectation and pressure off Chimay, because if he's then coming on, you're a couple of goals up, it's different. You've seen that in the last Kilmarnock game at Ibrox, didn't it? Chimay came on, runs about, plays like Duncan Ferguson for 10 minutes, scores that goal, and you think, here we go. So it's important. It's not just about the individual. Chimay's fate is not inextricably linked to Miovski's, but it's got a large part to play in it. Yeah,
the issue is that with Miovski, I at least have a body of work that I can go and say, look, he is capable of more than this. Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist for Chermiti. Mm-hmm. And until we begin to see signs of it, then fans, I think, can only go on what we've witnessed. And what we've witnessed is basically his Rangers career, because that is his career to this point, in all honesty. So I think but then in a way that almost led to more frustration. With Chermiti, I was more frustrated at Rangers for buying him. Whereas with Miovski, I was like, I can't blame the club for signing you.
Miovski, the money we've paid for Miovski is good. The money we've paid for Miovski on paper is decent. The money we've paid for Chermiti is obviously mind-boggling for us. And time will tell. It's really going to have to go some to justify itself. But this is the problem I've had this season. 3 strikers, 3 of them not contributing anywhere near enough. And hopefully Saturday's a start at least one of them starting to do something.
One boy who did contribute was Connor Barron, who I gave man of the match to. I thought he was excellent. And his goal-saving run and clearance early on, absolutely crucial, changes the whole game if that goes in. And it would have been given because it was a dreadful offside decision. Because, and for anyone who wonders, well, why don't they put the flag up? That's why they're told not to. in case they've got it wrong like that, and then it can be awarded. That's why they're told to keep it down to the move has ended. He actually takes the corner. Now, there's a double discussion here. Firstly, that Rangers can get broken on so easily from our own set pieces. That's something that we've seen a lot, and it concerns me. But he hails back from hitting the corner to get that. Sensing danger, Andy, something that we haven't seen enough of from Rangers as a team in general.
I've always liked Barron, right? And I think there's a lot of strange stuff goes on in Twitter world and so forth with the Rangers fans, because it's almost like, don't get too carried away. Don't actually, no hyperbole, but we sometimes dampen the praise for certain players. And I don't know if it's because he's Scottish or whatever. If you remember last season under Kilmarnock, he was our best player for the first quarter of the season. I think he was a really, really good player at that point. And I looked, you're like, this boy's got something. And this season, and last against Celtic, he had a great game against Celtic last season, I know. I think he's been our most notable player. If you're scouting Rangers, whether you're playing them or you're looking for players to sign or whatever, I think he's the one that would catch the eye. And if he could add a wee bit of finishing to his game, then he'd be absolutely out of this world. Because the reason I love him, David, is he's extremely tidy and on the ball. And that sensing the danger, you can't buy that, right? That's something that's very, very hard to coach into somebody. Be aware, be alert, and having the legs to get around the park, to start your move before others see why you're moving. And I think he's been really, really good at this season. And he's maturing into becoming a Rangers player. And more than being a Rangers player, he's maturing into what I would class as a leader in the park, which, as we've spoke long and weary about, is something that's absolutely required within our squad. So he's still a young player. He's still finding his way in his game, in his career. And I think he's one that actually, if we're sitting here looking at player trade models and all the rest of it, if he keeps doing what he's doing just now, and this is where folk will say, you're getting carried away. I'm not getting carried away. If he keeps doing what he's doing just now, and he carries it into European games and potentially Scotland squads if he gets on the park, he'll be the one that actually gets us a lot of money. Because whilst we might look at him parochially in a Scottish sense as being too wee or whatever, other leagues and other cultures will look at that and say he's got so many attributes that are really, really worthy. You only need to look at Billy Gilmour, and it's no, again, folk will be like, don't give it Billy Gilmour, but you're looking at things, there's aspects there that same stature, same ability to shield, read the game. He's got very, very decent passing range, by the way. This is a thing that's underrated about him. He's passing, I wish he would do it actually more, he's kind of forward passing. He was excellent Saturday night. It's no real surprise to me, but I've always liked him. And I hope he keeps going. I hope that we get that bit of luck where he stays injury free and he just matures, because as a fulcrum in our midfield, if you were to lose that, it'd be very, very hard to replace that. He's shown, Raskin had a good game Saturday, right? And we'll come to that after we got a goal ahead. I thought he came into his own, but he's been really disappointing for me this season in terms of use of the ball, erratic kind of possession play. He's not been as good winning the ball back. There's been so many tackles I've watched him where he's just not come out with the ball, and then all of a sudden you've got a break against you. Barnes kind of been his equal or even better this season, so I think he needs to take great credit, and I think we need to. I'm talking about the narrative for a lot of players. We have got a habit at Rangers supporters to say, we get to the point where like, right, that's it, right, we've made our mind up on him, and sometimes it's right, but a lot of times you're like, nah, too early, wait the new. And Barron's been one of the players. If you could get good money for him after signing on Bosman, with the new rules for sustainability, that's as good as a youth player. It's pure profit. So I'm delighted with Barron.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I'm not taking into account that people can improve. Almost like it's not a computer game. They don't have a level and they can improve. They can get worse. I mean, my brain accepts that because I've seen it. And players can lose quality as they age. Obviously, we all do. But I'm guilty of that and not going that a player can be better season on season because
we're fib,
they're developing.
We're fib, I suppose. It's natural, and it's even worse at Rangers because if something doesn't go to plan 1 or 2 times, and we kind of lose our
get somebody else.
And I said in the extra the other night with Cammy, I says this Rangers squad, a big turnover of players in the summer, therefore not all of them are going to be successful straight away, if any, right? And it's hard enough to become a Rangers player at the best of times under a good team, a good core. That Martin period, I think it completely shattered the squad in terms of confidence. I think it completely shattered the support. I know how I feel. I felt absolutely shattered. And therefore, everything that Rule's doing just now is repairing that day by day, match by match. So he's part of that narrative. I think Aaron's is part of the narrative. He's not the world beater, right? But the Aarons we're watching just now is competent at the very least, and he's fitting into the structure of the game and the way we're playing. I think he's far better right back and left back. But there's players like him. Obviously, Barami had a 10-minute renaissance to Andy's and get injured. Fernandes, I think, there's obviously things. He's got attributes.
He made a mistake at Tannadice, right? But we shouldn't write him off on the basis of that. But you can see that there is something there. See, it's interesting on Rule, actually, that you mentioned that, because I saw a few things after Tannadice, people saying, well, he's not improving the team and whatnot. And firstly, I think it's way too early for that. I don't think that you see massive turnarounds within 6-7 weeks when you're playing constantly as well. You see gradual improvement, incremental improvement. And we clearly are, statistically, we clearly are results, right? We're not great. Nobody's saying that, but we're clearly better. But the other thing is that it's a slightly harder job than even just coming into a side normally, because not only does he have to try and get his own ideas across, I think before he can even start that, he had to unpick the damage that Martin had done, because a lot of our players look confused, and I think that Martin dumped so much info into them and then they lost confidence because they were playing badly. So it's almost before he can even start or before he could. I mean, I think it's happening now. He almost had to sort of, clear it up first before he could start building, if that makes sense.
And I know we're going on about Martin. It's been weeks since he's been here, but that period there will go down in history as one of the most damaging periods in such a short space of time ever, football-wise, right? He totally coached the instincts out of every single player there, as far as I could see, and shattered confidence, shattered belief. The fact that then generates a kind of antagonism from supporter to playing staff, it's really, really hard then to do what you need to do in a Rangers jersey. And the one thing Martin was right about, he used to say things will be stronger for it. They'll be stronger for it now, because I don't think they'll ever have as hard a period as a Rangers player as they did then. Please, God, no. So there is that element that he's had to get players back on their feet. And I think the last 2 games, so Tannadice wasn't perfect, right? There was a lot of elements there, like totally frustration. But I think Tannadice and Kilmarnock were the first times we've seen a 2-match run where we were seeing things that were probably real stamp, which is we're getting the ball moving forward far quicker and more forward passing, more aggression in terms of the wide play, and we're a wee bit more exciting when we're attacking. We've still got defensive frailties, big defensive frailties. We've seen that. Kilmarnock could have had a couple of goals at least, and we'll talk about the incidents that went our way. But I think the real stamp, hopefully that's what we're going to see more of. And if we get a decent window, that we'll see more players that can help that shape, style, intensity. So anybody that's sitting, I said on Thursday again, I don't want folk listening to these podcasts and hear the same thing twice. On Thursday night I said with Cammy, I said I'm going to come out strong in the criticism rule. You can critique them, you can criticise subs, you can criticise starting selections, all this kind of stuff. That's natural, and no manager at any level is going to get that right 100% of the time. But it's far too early to start any kind of narrative where you're saying, well, we don't know if he's a man or what. Too early. This guy is rebuilding a footballing squad completely, but not just in a footballing sense, in a mentality sense. Everything. It could not have been a harder job for Rule coming in here. And the fact, and I keep joking about it on Twitter, the fact that we're 6-9 points away from the top, I'm like, wait a minute, how did this happen? because I literally 3 weeks ago was worrying about top 6, and I'm still a wee bit wary about European place and the implications financially if we don't get into Europa and Europa group stages, and that's just maybe my shattered confidence from the Martin era, but going on a wee bit of Wednesday night Tannadice and certainly a bigger chunk of Saturday night at Kilmarnock, a tough ground, there's far more room for optimism.
One player who I think exemplifies exactly what you're talking about there is Mikey Moore, who became the first Rangers player in recorded history to come back a lot quicker from an injury than had first been expected. When initially there was fears he would be out to the end of December, here he is back at the start of it. And I think this is a great case in point of, here was a boy, and he is a boy, he was 17 when he first came up here. He arrives and he gets used as a winger, which he isn't really, and told to stay wide. And I think we were all going, there's a fuss about this boy? Because this is different to the usual loans we get from English academies. This is not like, for example, and this is not a criticism of him, but this is not Miogama. Brentford have signed Miogama. They hope he's going to turn into a good player. Spurs think Mikey Moore's going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
Like future England player. And at first, I think we were, because I'd seen him play for Spurs. I wasn't, my excitement wasn't based on nothing. I was like, he is really talented. But didn't show it. Rules come in and went, no, hang on here, right? And a team that doesn't score goals, I'm going to put you in the middle. Go and do things. And he's doing things. He arrives off the bench after his injury, which, as I say, he's been breaking his neck to get back from. Within a couple of minutes, he scored a beauty, doing exactly what we lack and have lacked this season, which is his first thought, Andy, is how quickly can I get to their goal and get a shot in?
Mm-hmm.
And you see it, intent. That's the word, intent. And we're beginning to go, oh, look, what a player we've got here. He should have had a second. I don't think there's anything wrong with that goal. We'll come to referees in a minute. And I just think that I'm very impressed with Moore for a number of reasons. One, he's a lone player. He could have chucked this. I think there's a few guys that we've signed on permanence that are in that conversation, but he didn't, right? He's come through this really horrible situation, and it was horrible at the start of the season, for us as fans, but for players as well. And he's looking like he's relishing it. That tells me there's mentality there as well as talent. And now he's 18 years old or not. We talk about leadership in football, and sometimes as supporters, I think we think it's shouting and bawling, and that's a part of it. But for me, bravery in football is not, kicking people. Bravery is wanting the ball. The crowd are on you wanting the ball. And he does that. And taking responsibility on the field. And that's why I'm impressed with him, because it would have been very easy for him to go, what have I done here? I can't wait to get back to London. He's not done that at all. He's gone the opposite way. It reminds me a little bit of Czerny last year. But he's 10 years younger. And he doesn't have the experience Czerny has. And what is very clear is he's a very fine football player.
Yeah. He's so at the start of the season we signed him, there's a bit of hoopla about it because he's an exciting player. You see him in the flesh, you see he's got some attributes, ripping it up. But mind we had the live show with John Brown. John Brown's like, apparently this boy's ripping up every day in training and they're really, really excited about him. Mind, they were talking about as if there was a secret weapon we're going to unleash.
Aye, and
we just want to see it.
Bomber, who's a scout ability I rate, said he was, this boy's a player, wait and see.
And but what you've got is, Martin had him cutting in for the right hand side, and you could clearly see it wasn't his game. I think he's, as you say, Spurs rate him. The Dispatch has been talking about him in the same kind of context as how Harry Kane reached his potential when they had umpteen loans for him. He's got the height, and you can see he's got the frame. And what I mean by that, he's going to fill out a wee bit more. He's only 18. He's ahead of himself physically for any 18-year-old. I don't think there's any question about that. And when you see how players in the Premiership develop, whether it's a sports science or whatever they're feeding them down there, you can see that he could be, like a Gareth Bale type transformation if he really wanted to. That's what we don't have up here. We don't get players making that move for that, from a boy to a man kind of thing. It just doesn't happen, very, very rarely. And I go back to what I've been saying all season. We need a couple of difference makers. You can be having a poor game as a team and it's not quite coming off you and all that kind of stuff, and all you need is somebody that just, and you're talking about leadership, grabs the game with the scruff of the neck for a second or two and actually makes a difference and kills a team, or gets that breakthrough goal or the killer goal that kills the game, whatever. And he's a player that could be that for us. He kind of done it. It was a third goal, right? But he kind of done it on Saturday night because he come in and immediately rolls it, Lewis Mayo, I think it is, and actually just runs straight to goal, has a cracking finish, right? So this boy could be something really special for us in that position, because if you think about what we do at Ibrox and we're struggling to break down low blocks, or whatever you want to call it, you are screaming out for somebody to beat a man, break the lines by actually taking a man on. It's what Asgard's not really done enough. And that's why I've got a criticism, because he'll too often turn back, pass it in or whatever, instead of actually driving at defences, getting to the edge of the box, looking for interplay, getting a foul, whatever. I think he's ideally suited to that kind of play, and I think Rule will get the best of him. If anything, and I know I'm jumping ahead of myself here, I feel as if it's been a shame that his first 3-4 months at Rangers has been wasted by what's been going on. But if he hits a bit of form now to the end of the season, then he can do a bit of damage for us. And, who's to say we don't go back to Spurs and say, why don't you leave him for another season? Whether they want to do it or no, I don't know.
Yeah, I would hope they would. That's the only way of keeping him. Some people have asked me about this, sent emails saying, any chance for permanent deal? None.
Aye. This boy's he'll be 50, 60, 70 million quid if this goes to the trajectory that they're expecting. Yeah, and as I say...
And they want to play him. They don't, as you mentioned there, it's like Kane, they don't want, they're not loaning him out to see if he develops.
Aye. They're sure about him.
He will play for Spurs, yeah. But I thought it was terrific when he came on, and very, exciting, and a great goal, obviously. Could have had another, should have had another, in my opinion. But the refereeing, now... I think that we are honest on here, and we always say that it's the standards of refereeing. I think we get away with one with the Mo Diamande foul on David Watson. Now, the explanation, which didn't come from the SFA, which is really piss poor, it really is, but it came, they're quick enough when it's a decision affecting one team in this league to get info out. But Bobby Madden has explained it. He said, under the current guidelines, believe it or not, it is not a penalty, because what they can take into account is he getting the ball? And his view on that is a dangerous route to go down, because it means players can trip and say, well, he wasn't getting anywhere near the ball, and foul and shove people over and stuff. A foul is a foul, and I agree with that. I think it should be the case. A referee could choose to give it and disregard that. It's this subjectivity that's part of IFAB's apparent crusade, Andy, to complicate the shit out of what used to be a fairly simple game. But I was raging about it, because if a penalty had been given, I'd have no complaints. If it happened at the other end, I'd have been demanding one. Mm-hmm. And the other thing about it is I was raging at Diamande because it's lazy. He's not tracking Watson. Watson's made the run. He sees him. Rather than going with him because he knows he's lost him, he just pulls him back. And it could have cost us hugely. And it's brain farts like that. It's not even a brain fart, because he's doing it to make up for a mistake he's made. That kind of thing annoys me.
I agree. This and the Butland one we'll talk about, but if it'd been against us, then I'd be expecting a penalty. But I'd be cognizant of the fact that it's not a clear cut. I liked what Dermot Gallagher said in Sky this morning, which was that if it's over the fact that is it in or out of the box. First of all, he says when it's a trip or a tackle or something, you've got feet on the ground to see where it's at. Whereas if it's a pull of a jersey and Watson has maybe 2 strides and it starts outside and finishes inside, so he says that's why it's very, very, very subjective. Now, I agree with Madden in that there was no guarantee Watson was going to, it wasn't as if it was an obvious cutback.
Well, the cross got blocked.
Of course.
So he's definitely not getting on the end of it.
But even if it was coming in, was it going to be a cutback to him or whatever? Because if you, and I'm not just making excuses because it was a Rangers decision that went our way for once, but if you play that out and that's a foul or a penalty when, they're not actually in play, right? It's no, the ball's nowhere near them. you would have a penalty at every single corner free kick due to blocking. So you'd be sitting looking and say, there's 5-6 players, the ball's nowhere near them, don't know if it's going to get to them, likelihood is it won't, but they're all getting blocked or held or whatever. Does that mean that's a penalty? Of course it doesn't. The game would be pandemonium. Every single set piece would be a penalty. So therefore, I think it would probably, in the end, up the right decision. But you've said it, David, we're fair about this. We're no mental. If that's going to be at the other end of the park and it's somebody holding our player back, you'd be screaming for a penalty.
100%.
But it's 50-50, And Diomande is, and again, this is where we're honest with ourselves. The blame lies with him,
100%.
and he's doing it far, far too often. Not just in terms of that kind of stuff, but also his decision on the balls.
Disciplinary liability, I think,
yes.
for a while now.
He's reckless, he's erratic. He has games where he's absolutely outstanding, but they're too few and far between. You remember him the first half at I think at home at Bilbao and also away before we had to move after sending off. And then at Parkhead, he was totally imperious, right? And you're like, this guy's really, really got something. They can create space in tight spaces, and he's just exactly what you'd be looking for. If you're looking at him playing for another team, we signed him, you're like, brilliant signing. But he's got too many moments in a game where he's brilliant 1 minute and atrocious the next, whether it's losing the ball or whatever. And that was one there that, just as I'm talking about game changers in terms of Moore and Miovski, we don't want game changers like that where actually you sell the jerseys. That's where Giga and him have been, as you say, the wrong side of liability. So he's really got to tidy this up, David, because him, he's not been here that long, but he's been here long enough, and he's been bought for a sum that was justifiably, there's a justifiable expectation that he should become a senior player for us who contributes, helps us win things, and moves on for a fee. And he's just not there. He's just not doing it. He has 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and he needs to really get a grip of what his Rangers career looks like for him. And again, I'm hoping Rule's a guy that kind of gets that out of him.
No, I totally agree. And yeah, as you mentioned, it was quite annoying to see a situation that shouldn't have been allowed to develop, and it's because he wasn't doing his job properly. The Butland one, I didn't think anything of it. I still don't. I thought he wins the ball fairly cleanly. There's some accidental contact and a coming together, but for me, nah. I would hold my hands up if I thought, but I really didn't, and I don't understand the fuss on it.
So regardless of whether it's a foul or not, it's not a red card because Tavernier's round the back of him. Again, I'm trying to play this out and say, right, if that's a Kelly goalie coming out in Miovski, what would I be thinking? I think it's a wrong side of reckless, dangerous. I thought it came out full blooded, but since when was full blooded in the Scottish game ever a problem, right? His left foot goes by the player, doesn't touch him in that, and everybody keeps making a great play of the fact that Bruce Anderson touched the ball first. He did, and then he knocked it off his right knee, so it's kind of a tackle. So I agree with you. I don't think it's definitely not a red card. If he gave a foul for it, I can see why, right? But I'll go back to what I probably said in the first ever pod that I done with you. When would that been, David? 2017.
Yep.
And round about then, we were talking about the Motherwell semi-final with Kushina. Remember that? Where it was a fucking bloodbath, and it was more like rollerball in a football game, and it just got allowed to play out, right? Broken noses all over the place, and just, it was horrendous. And I said back then, look, if the Scottish game is serious about actually going forward, because at that point you had Project Brave and all this Malcolm Mackay nonsense, and it's come in absolutely nothing. If the Scottish game is serious about developing players, developing a style of football, attracting different types of people to watch Scottish football, then they would go off an awful long way by changing what physicality is allowed in Scottish football. And we still, and I think this chasm is getting wider. We stand alone, maybe a pair for the Irish leagues, and I'm being serious here. We stand alone as allowing things to go in terms of tackles and pushes and shoves and hyper physicality, and just allowing teams to lean into physicality as a tactic. I'm not talking about intensity or getting stuck in. I'm talking about physicality and stuff that's no nice to watch. We let it breed and we let it breathe, and it's because of the refereeing. You'll get a tackle in the first minute and you'll get a tackle in the last minute, and it's a tackle in the last minute will get the booking or whatever because of the time of the game. That shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. And my eyes were opened up. I know I was doing it at Spurs, and we watched Match of the Day and we watched the Premiership on the telly, and you can see it for yourselves. But there was something about being in that ground that I was like, about 4 or 5 times I turned to my nephew and I was like, see, in Scotland, that wouldn't be a foul. That wouldn't even be a booking. There was stuff went on that you're like, this game's intense. There's slide tackles, there's physicality, but it's proper. And as soon as it goes over the line of actually killing the ball players, if that makes sense, stopping good play from happening, the referee stamps down on it quite clearly. Up here, it's starting to piss me off, right? Because I'm not just saying this day because it would suit Rangers, suit Celtic and all, but I think
they don't get red cards.
Well,
saw that the weekend again.
There's a glorious irony in teams like Kilmarnock or St Mirren or whatever moaning about refereeing decisions when you're like, well, do you know what? You're contributing to what's making the game hard. In defence of referees, and I don't think referees are up to standard. I don't think they're anywhere near it. But they make the game hard for them, and in turn they make it hard for VAR, because a lot of things that people are having to check or become contentious issues, doing in England, there would be no contention about it, or any other league for that matter, because it would be clear cut. Nah, that's a foul. Nah, you're not allowed to do that. It wouldn't even be a thing. So again, I'm on my soapbox, but nothing's ever going to change until the refereeing standards. 1994, USA 94 is when it all changed. Remember that?
I do.
We watched that tournament, we're like, hold on a minute, that's a booking. Hold on a minute, that's a foul. And within maybe 2 seasons, the rest of the world had kind of adhered to that. There had at least been a kind of shift towards less physicality. In Scotland, has probably been dragged along a wee bit, but we're still the wrong side of the rest of the world. And I don't know why, super brains like Colin, who are refereeing in Dallas before him, I've got to be honest, why are they not seeing this and saying, you know what, we need a sea change in terms of what will and won't be acceptable in Scottish football? Nothing will change till they do it.
No, I can't disagree with that. Just before we wrap up then, the other incident was Pyro use. It was Pyro before the game. The players seem to like it. Nico Raskin, he put a picture of it up on his Instagram, but there are reports that an 11-year-old boy was injured by the Pyro. Rangers will definitely face sanctions and will lose 50 tickets for an upcoming away match. And it's sparked the debate that it always does among supporters. You're in away ends a lot more than I am, and therefore have got, I think, a lot more credibility in this. What are your thoughts?
If I'm being really, really honest, I love it. If I'm being really, really honest, I think it's spectacular.
You're full of surprises, McGowan.
I think it's spectacular, and it's it adds something. I know, and there'll be a lot of folks saying, "Nah, you're mental. It's dangerous, and it adds nothing." I think it adds something, and I think there's a reckoning to be had between. It's like safe standing. They're going to stand anyway, so why don't you make it safe standing? And there's going to be pyro, so why don't you do something about safe pyro? Or I don't know how you do it, right? But there needs to be a discussion at the very least.
I mean, yeah, you get safe pyro in Germany. It can be done if you want to. My view on it is again, you can deal in what should be and what is. I think if people are getting injured, Andy, it needs to stop.
That's a problem.
Rangers fans can't get into games because of it, then it needs to stop. That's not fair on your fellow supporters.
No, I agree.
However, I do think that there is a middle ground as well, that you could do it and you could do it safely. The issue that the authorities have is if you've got groups who set themselves up as anti-authority and going against the grain, and you tell them not to do something, then you're guaranteeing that they're going to do it. That's just the fucking reality of it, and that has been the case since man first left caves.
So this is my other thing. I'm 49. I'm not going to tell youngsters about today because I don't know what I'd be like. But what I will say is I've got an insight into this because my young nephew's 13, right? See that age group? They are obsessed with ultra culture. Now, they might not get fully involved in it. They might not actually be sitting there, but they are obsessed with the ultra culture, which is whether it's the flags or the stickers or whatever, the wee necktie scarves, I don't know. They love it. You just need to go down to the Copeland corner and see that stall, the Union Bear stall, on a Saturday, and see the kids that are there and the energy that's there, right? So we can't lose this, because this is the future, and there's something in it. What the problem is the age-old thing where there is no discussion. There is no discussion. It's verboten to actually say, well, you know what, maybe there's middle ground. But your point there about anti-establishment is also key to it, because what we've got to make sure at Rangers is that our boys do not become our version of Green Brigade, because we've got a club across the other side of the city who are eating themselves alive over an ideology which is it's so immature and bonkers, it's not true, right? Anti-establishment. And they're doing it in so many ways. Any way they can do it, right? I would love to think that our Union Bears or whoever it is have that savvy that there is a game to be played here. And I know there is a ultra code and all the rest of it, but I would love to see a sensible approach where you get this middle ground where the club can trust you. I don't think the club's trust has been there. I think Patrick Stewart had an issue with them, and that's played itself out, as we could see. If you want to be... Because what should be happening, Davey, is we should have a standing section by now. I do truly think that if the Union Bears and that kind of cohort had played their cards right under Bisgrove, who was open to it at that point in time, we could be sitting here with a mini Dortmund-style Copeland, at least the front section. But every time something goes wrong, whether it's a UEFA sanction or, the fireworks against Lyon or something that you're like, right, you've stepped to the line, the club's not going to play ball with you now, that's a problem. So luckily I'm too old to worry about it, and I'm not going to problem solve it. But I dare say me and you, Dave, if we were younger in this generation, I dare say we would have been pretty near the middle of this. What would we have said then? I don't know.
Yeah, we were practical. And this is the thing, right, about... and I don't expect them to. Younger people always think they're the first people who have ever come up with an idea or who've ever experienced something, right? I was the same, because it's the first time you're experiencing it, so you just assume you're the first generation to do so. Whereas, as you get older, you realise history repeats, and they're not going to listen to a single thing you or I say. I understand that. Whereas we could say, based on our experience of fan culture engagement over the years, things to do and not to do to actually help get what they want. But part of that, is about the rebellion, and, that's part of the attraction of it. I do get it. But I think that in an issue like this, you need to take along other supporters, because then there will come times when you need support and it isn't there. And that was a mistake that I made when I was at the Trust. That if you didn't agree with me, well, fuck you. That doesn't get you anywhere, because when it comes to, you need to bring people along, and if you don't, then you won't get what you want. So it's self-defeating, and I know this because I self-defeated by doing it. I was very, fuck you, if you don't agree with me, I'm right and you're wrong, and you should see that, and if you don't, then you're an idiot. People don't like that, and other supporters are seeing fines and seeing sanctions, and they're pissed off by it. And then when the time comes when you do need support from the rest of the group against a decision by the club, it's not there. So that's the reality of it. Yeah,
you're seeing it at Celtic. I think the majority of Celtic fans are pissed off with Green Brigade,
they hate
largely, and I can understand why. And Union Bears are nowhere near that line at all. But there is aspects where, like, do you know what? You've been badly advised there. You should be taking counsel there. And I know that's not the way. You've just explained it perfectly, Dave, in terms of how that what plays itself out. But there's so much to be gained if this is played out correctly for generations.
20 years ago, when we were doing the sports stuff, if Davey and Andy had a time machine, 48 and 49-year-old Davey and Andy went back, our younger selves would have told us to fuck off.
Aye, I kicked their asses, probably.
It never changes. Anyway, that will do us this week on Heart and Hand. We will be back, of course, next week, but at a later day, because we're playing on Monday, Andy, a Monday night football involving Rangers. So clearly we will not be here during the game. We'll be here on the Tuesday to report on the Hibs game. Cammy will be back on Friday with Heart and Hand Extra after that Ferencvaros match, and very much looking forward to those two games. Andy, thank you so much for joining me today, mate.
My pleasure. Always good to get in after a victory, which is not like you, Davey. You usually just phone me when we've just been.
Yeah, I usually just phone you. You're like a comfort blanket for the support. So, but in case of emergency, break out Andy. But this season, there's been so many emergencies that the glass is smashed. So,
in case of emergency, get your Pyro out.
Exactly. My thanks to Mike Lee and Paul Miles, our producers, and thank you very, very much for listening. Just a quick reminder of the live show, the Fan Media live show on January the 9th at New Edmiston House, featuring myself, Stevie Clifford, and CJ Novo, as well as special guest Mark Haitley. Tickets are available on the Edmiston House website, and if you're very lazy like me and you want to buy a Christmas present, this is just 3 clicks and you can do it. So go and do that now. Until I speak to you again, have a great week, everybody. Take care.